Have you ever felt rejected so deeply that it shattered your soul? Like every piece of you was cracked open, leaving nothing but a hollow ache in its place? Maybe it wasn't romantic love. It could have been friendship, family, or even just the quiet longing for acceptance. But imagine this. What if someone loved you so much they'd burn the entire world just to keep you safe? Not because they're noble or selfless, but because their need for you is all-consuming, a fire that can't be extinguished. Welcome back to I Love Romance Stories, where we dive into werewolf shifter romances filled with passion, heartbreak, and obsession. Today's story isn't just about mates and bonds. It's about survival, sacrifice, and forbidden love. It's called Rejected by My Mate, Bound to the Alpha Who Would Burn the World for Me. And trust me when I say, this tale will leave you breathless, questioning everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and how far we'll go for the people who hold our hearts. But before we step into this wild, untamed world of shifters, let me ask you something. How far would you go to protect the person who holds your heart? How far would you go to claim them, to make them yours, even if it meant destroying everything else around you? Because in this story, no line is too far crossed when it comes to love or revenge. This isn't just a romance. It's a battle between fate and free will, between desire and destruction. So buckle up, my friends, because once you're in, there's no turning back. Let's start with her, the girl at the center of it all. She's standing under a blood-red moon, her breath visible in the frosty air as she stares out over the forest. Her wolf stirs inside her, restless and uneasy, like an animal pacing the bars of its cage. She's waiting for him, for the mate she's dreamed of since she first shifted, since she first understood what it meant to belong to someone on a level deeper than skin, deeper than bone. Fated mates are sacred among shifters. They're supposed to complete you, heal the broken pieces of your soul, and tether you to the earth when everything else feels like it's spinning out of control. But tonight, something feels wrong. The wind carries whispers through the trees, warnings, maybe, or promises. She doesn't know yet, but she should. Deep down, her wolf knows. It's clawing at her chest now, desperate to get out to run, to escape whatever's coming. But she forces herself to stay still, to wait. Because fate doesn't give second chances, does it? Or so she's been told. Her name is Elara, though most people don't bother learning it. To them, she's just another Omega, a weak link in the pack hierarchy, someone to look down on, to dismiss. But Elara has always had dreams bigger than her station, dreams of being seen, of being cherished, of finding the one person who would choose her above all others. And tonight, that dream is supposed to come true. The forest around her is alive with sound, the rustling of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the occasional snap of twigs beneath unseen paws. But none of those noises matter compared to the pounding of her own heart. It's loud enough to drown out the world, each beat echoing like a drum calling soldiers to war. War, that's what this feels like. As if the universe itself has conspired to bring her here, to this moment, to test her resolve. And then he steps out of the shadows. At first, she thinks it's him, her mate. He's tall, broad-shouldered, his golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. His presence fills the clearing, commanding attention without effort. But as he moves closer, she realizes her mistake. This isn't her mate. This is Kael, the alpha of alphas, the man who rules not just one pack, but several. The man whose name is spoken in hushed tones, both revered and feared. Kael stops a few feet away from her, tilting his head slightly as he studies her. There's something predatory in his gaze, something that makes her wolf whimper and shrink back. But there's also something else, something softer, buried beneath layers of power and control. Something that makes her wonder if he sees her differently than everyone else does. If he sees her not as an Omega, but as more. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he says finally, his voice low and rough, like gravel grinding against stone. "Not tonight." Elara swallows hard, forcing herself to meet his eyes. "I'm waiting," she says simply, though her voice trembles. For my mate. Kael's jaw tightens, and for a moment, she thinks he might laugh. Instead, he takes another step toward her, closing the distance between them until she can feel the heat radiating off his body. His scent surrounds her, smoke and pine, sharp and intoxicating. It's overwhelming, suffocating almost, but she can't look away, can't move. He won't come, Kael says, his tone final, absolute. And even if he does, he doesn't deserve you. Her breath catches in her throat, and for a split second, she wants to believe him. Wants to believe that she's worth more than being cast aside, forgotten. But then reality crashes down on her again, heavy and unrelenting. You don't know that, she whispers, though her voice lacks conviction. Oh, I do, Kael replies, his lips curling into a smirk that sends a shiver down her spine. Because if he did, he wouldn't have left you standing here in the cold, wondering if you're good enough, wondering if anyone will ever want you. His words hit her like a punch to the gut, knocking the air from her lungs. Tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but she refuses to let them fall, refuses to show weakness in front of him. Still, she can't deny the truth in what he's saying. Not entirely, because deep down, she's wondered the same thing. Has spent countless nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why fate would give her a mate only to take him away before he even arrived. Kael reaches out, his fingers brushing against her cheek. His touch is surprisingly gentle, considering the raw power that seems to radiate from him. Don't cry, he murmurs, his thumb wiping away the single tear that escapes despite her best efforts. You're stronger than this. Stronger than him. She jerks back, putting space between them. You don't know me, she snaps, anger flaring to life within her. Anger at him for being right, for seeing straight through her carefully constructed walls. Anger at herself for letting him get close enough to do so. No, Kael agrees, taking a step back but never breaking eye contact. But I want to, more than anything. Before she can respond, a new sound cuts through the night, a low growl, followed by the unmistakable crunch of footsteps approaching from the opposite side of the clearing. Both Elara and Kael turn toward the noise, their bodies tense, ready for whatever or whoever is coming next. It's him, her mate, finally. But as he steps into the light, Elara's heart sinks. There's no recognition in his eyes, no spark of connection, just confusion and disdain. What is this? He asks, his voice cold and clipped as he looks between Elara and Kael. Why are you here? Elara opens her mouth to explain, to tell him who she is, what she means to him. But the words die on her lips as she meets his gaze and sees the truth staring back at her. He doesn't want her, doesn't recognize her, doesn't care, and in that moment her world crumbles. Kael watches silently, his expression unreadable, as Elara's mate turns and walks away without another word, without a backward glance. When he's gone, Kael turns back to her, his eyes blazing with fury. And something else, something darker. He made his choice, Kael says softly, stepping closer until he's towering over her. Now it's time for you to make yours. Elara shakes her head, tears streaming down her face now. I don't understand. You will, Kael promises, his voice dropping to a whisper as he cups her face in his hands. Soon enough you'll see. You were never meant for him. You were always meant for me. And with that he kisses her, not gently, but with a ferocity that leaves her breathless, clinging to him as if he's the only thing keeping her from falling apart completely. When he pulls away, his eyes are glowing brighter than ever, and his smile is equal parts triumphant and terrifying. Run, he tells her, releasing her abruptly. Run as fast and as far as you can, because no matter where you go, I'll find you. And when I do, he trails off, letting the threat hang in the air between them. Then he turns and disappears into the shadows, leaving Elara alone in the clearing, her mind reeling, her heart racing, and her future suddenly uncertain. What happens next? Well, that's a story for another time. But trust me, it's not going to be pretty. Because when an alpha sets his sights on you, there's no escaping him. Not really. And when that alpha is willing to burn the world to ashes just to keep you safe, well, let's just say things are about to get messy. Stay tuned, because this is only the beginning. Elara stands frozen in the clearing, her body trembling not from the cold but from the weight of Kael's words. The forest around her seems to hold its breath, the silence pressing down on her like a suffocating blanket. She can still feel the heat of his kiss lingering on her lips, burning, branding, claiming. It's too much, too fast, too wrong. But beneath the chaos swirling inside her, a tiny voice whispers that it also felt right. And that scares her more than anything. Her wolf whimpers again, pacing restlessly within her mind, torn between instinct and reason. Instinct tells her to run, to flee this place, this moment, this man who looks at her like she's both prey and salvation. Reason screams that running won't help. Not when he said he'd find her no matter where she went. Not when his promise carried the weight of inevitability, as if fate itself had been rewritten in that single kiss. But before she can decide what to do next, the air shifts. A low growl rumbles through the trees, sending a shiver up her spine. Her head snaps toward the sound, her senses sharpening as adrenaline floods her veins. Something is coming. No, someone. Someone other than Kael. Someone dangerous. The figure steps into view, slowly, deliberately, emerging from the shadows like a ghost. He's tall, leaner than Kael, but no less intimidating, with eyes that gleam silver under the moonlight. His scent hits her first, sharp and metallic like blood and steel, and then his presence crashes over her like a tidal wave. This isn't just another alpha. This is someone older, crueler, someone who doesn't play by the rules of packs or mates. Elara, he says, his voice smooth as silk but laced with venom. I see you've already met our dear Kael. She takes a step back, her heart hammering against her ribs. Who are you? She demands, though her voice wavers despite her best efforts to sound brave. He smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. Call me Lucian. I'm here because your little display has caught the attention of forces far beyond your understanding. Forces that don't take kindly to broken bonds, or alphas who think they can rewrite destiny. Lucian's gaze flicks past her, scanning the edge of the clearing where Kael disappeared moments ago. There's malice in his expression, a hunger that makes her skin crawl. Whatever vendetta he has against Kael, it's personal. And somehow, she's become tangled in the middle of it. What do you want from me? Elara asks, clutching her arms tightly around herself as if trying to shield her fragile resolve. Lucian tilts his head, studying her like a predator sizing up its prey. You're a pawn, darling. Nothing more. But pawns have their uses, especially when they're tied to someone like Kael. He thinks he can protect you? Let him try. In the end, we'll see whose fire burns brighter. Before she can respond, he vanishes into the darkness, leaving behind only the faintest trace of his scent and the echo of his laughter. The forest feels emptier now, quieter, but the threat hangs heavy in the air, clinging to her like a shadow she can't shake. Hours later, Elara finds herself back at the outskirts of her pack's territory, her legs carrying her forward on autopilot. Her mind is a whirlwind of questions, fears, and fragments of memories she wishes she could erase. She shouldn't have gone out tonight, shouldn't have dared to hope for something better. Yet here she is, standing on the precipice of a life she no longer recognizes. The pack's den is nestled deep within the woods, hidden from outsiders by thick foliage and ancient magic. To most, it's a sanctuary, a place where shifters can live without fear of discovery or persecution. But to Elara, it's always been a cage. Growing up as an Omega, she learned early on that her worth was measured by how useful she could be to others, how obedient, how submissive. Never once was she allowed to dream of anything greater. As she approaches the entrance, the familiar scents of pine and earth mingle with the faint aroma of smoke drifting from the central fire pit. Voices carry through the trees, laughter, arguments, the occasional bark of a playful pup, but none of it brings her comfort. Instead, it reminds her of everything she's lost, or maybe never truly had. Inside, the main lodge is alive with activity. Shifters lounge on furs spread across the floor, sharing stories and passing around jugs of spiced cider. At the center of it all sits Finn, the current alpha of her pack. He's younger than Kael, less imposing, but his authority is unquestioned among his people. His mate, Elara, sits beside him, her golden hair glowing like sunlight even in the dim firelight. Together, they embody everything a mated pair should be. Strong, united, unbreakable. For a brief moment, envy twists in Elara's chest. Then guilt quickly follows, chiding her for feeling such things when others have worked so hard to build lives worth envying. Still, she can't help but wonder what it would feel like to belong to someone like that. To know that no matter what happens, you'll always have someone standing by your side. Elara! A voice calls, pulling her from her thoughts. She turns to see Mira, one of the few friends she's managed to keep over the years, waving her over. Myra's grin is warm and inviting, but there's worry etched into the lines around her eyes. Where have you been? We were starting to think you got lost. I needed some air, Elara replies, forcing a smile as she joins her friend by the fire. Clear my head, you know. Mira nods, though skepticism flickers across her face. Well, don't disappear like that again. You had us worried. Elara murmurs an apology, but her attention is already drifting elsewhere. Across the room, two betas are whispering urgently, their heads bent close together. One of them glances in her direction before quickly looking away. Suspicion prickles at the edges of her mind. Are they talking about her? About what happened tonight? She shakes off the thought, reminding herself that paranoia won't help. Not now. Not when she needs to focus on figuring out her next move. Because staying here, pretending nothing has changed, isn't an option anymore. Not after Kael. Not after Lucian. Later that night, long after the fires have died down and the rest of the pack has retired to their dens, Elara lies awake, staring at the ceiling. Sleep eludes her, chased away by the ghosts of Kael's promises and Lucian's threats. Her wolf paces relentlessly inside her mind, restless and agitated, as if sensing the storm brewing on the horizon. A soft knock at the door startles her, and she sits up abruptly, her heart pounding. Who is it? She calls, her voice barely above a whisper. It's me, comes Myra's reply. Can I come in? Elara hesitates, then nods, realizing too late that Mira can't see her. Yeah, come in. The door creaks open, and Mira slips inside, closing it softly behind her. In the dim light of the dying embers in the fireplace, her expression is unreadable. Are you okay? She asks, sitting down on the edge of the bed. You've seemed off ever since you came back. Elara sighs, running a hand through her tangled hair. I'm fine, just tired. Mira studies her for a moment, then shakes her head. Don't lie to me. We've known each other too long for that. What happened tonight, Elara? Really? Panic flares in Elara's chest, but she forces herself to remain calm. Telling Mira the truth would only put her in danger. Besides, how could she possibly explain Kael's obsession or Lucian's cryptic warnings? They sound insane even to her own ears. Nothing happened, she says finally, meeting Myra's gaze steadily. I swear. Mira frowns, clearly unconvinced, but doesn't press further. All right, but if something's bothering you, you know you can talk to me, right? You don't have to face whatever it is alone. Tears prick at the corners of Elara's eyes, and she blinks them away quickly. Thanks, Mira. I mean it. Her friend gives her a small, sad smile before standing up. Get some rest, okay? Tomorrow's a new day. After Mira leaves, Elara curls up under the blankets, hugging her knees to her chest. For a while, she lets herself imagine what it might be like to confide in someone, to share the burden weighing so heavily on her shoulders. But the image fades almost immediately, replaced by visions of flames and shadows and glowing golden eyes. Tomorrow may be a new day, but she knows one thing for certain. Kael isn't done with her. Neither is Lucian. And whichever path she chooses, it will change her life forever. As dawn begins to break, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange, Elara hears a distant howl echo through the forest. It's deep and guttural, filled with both longing and menace. She recognizes it instantly. It's Kael, calling for her, and she knows, with a sinking certainty, that she won't be able to resist answering. What awaits her in the woods? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear. The game has begun, and Elara is playing for keeps, even if she doesn't yet realize the stakes. The howl cuts through the stillness of dawn like a blade, sharp and unrelenting. It's not just any sound. It's Kael's call, raw with demand and layered with something darker, more primal. Elara feels it in her bones, a vibration that resonates deep within her chest, shaking loose the fragile threads of resolve she'd clung to all night. She knows she shouldn't go. Every instinct screams at her to stay hidden, to bury herself beneath blankets and hope the world forgets about her for a little while longer. But the pull is undeniable, a tether forged by fate, or perhaps something far crueler. Her wolf whimpers again, pacing inside her mind like a caged beast desperate for release. It wants to run, but not away. Toward him, toward the source of that haunting cry. And though Elara fights against it, digging her nails into her palms until they ache, she can feel herself slipping. The walls she's built around her heart are crumbling, brick by brick, under the weight of his summons. She rises from the bed silently, careful not to wake Mira, who's fallen asleep on the floor beside her after insisting she stay close just in case. Elara hesitates for a moment, watching her friend's peaceful expression, guilt twisting in her gut. If she leaves now, she might never come back. Not really. But staying isn't an option either, not when Kael's voice echoes in her ears, promising things she both fears and craves. Grabbing a thin shawl from the foot of the bed, she wraps it around her shoulders and steps outside. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of dew-kissed grass and distant smoke. Dawn paints the sky in streaks of gold and crimson, but there's no beauty in it today, only foreboding. Her feet move almost of their own accord, carrying her deeper into the forest where the shadows linger longest. Kael waits for her at the edge of the clearing, his silhouette framed by the rising sun. He looks untouchable, invincible, like some ancient god carved from stone and fire. His golden eyes lock onto hers the moment she steps into view, pinning her in place as surely as if he'd reached out and grabbed her by the throat. There's no trace of the gentleness he showed her earlier, only raw intensity, burning brighter than ever. "You came," he says, his voice rough and low, laced with satisfaction. "I knew you would." Elara swallows hard, forcing herself to meet his gaze despite the storm raging behind those molten irises. "What do you want from me?" she asks, her voice trembling despite her best efforts to keep it steady. Kael tilts his head, studying her like a predator sizing up its prey. "You already know the answer to that," he replies, taking a step closer. "I want everything. Every part of you. Your body, your soul, your loyalty. All of it." She shakes her head, backing away instinctively. "That's insane. You don't even know me." "I know enough," he counters, closing the distance between them until she can feel the heat radiating off his skin. "I know you're stronger than you think, that you've spent your whole life being told you're nothing, when you're worth more than anyone else in this pack, or any other. I know you deserve better than the scraps they throw at you, better than him." His words hit her like a punch to the gut, knocking the air from her lungs. Him, the mate who rejected her without a second thought. The memory flashes before her eyes unbidden, the cold disdain in his voice, the way he turned his back on her as if she were nothing more than a stranger. "You're wrong," she whispers, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. He doesn't matter anymore. Good, Kael growls, his tone dropping dangerously. Because he doesn't exist for you anymore. From now on, there's only me. Before she can respond, his hand shoots out, gripping her wrist with bruising force. Not enough to hurt, but enough to remind her exactly who holds the power here. Do you understand? He demands, leaning down until his face is inches from hers. You belong to me now. Say it. Elara stares up at him, torn between fear and defiance. Part of her wants to fight back, to scream and claw and refuse to give him what he's demanding. But another part, the part that's been starved for validation her entire life, wants to surrender. To let someone else take control, if only for a moment. No, she breathes finally, her voice barely audible. I don't belong to anyone. For a heartbeat, Kael's expression falters, surprise flickering across his features. Then his grip tightens, and his lips curl into a smirk that sends a chill racing down her spine. We'll see about that, he murmurs, releasing her abruptly. As he turns to leave, disappearing into the trees without another word, his final warning hangs heavy in the air. Run all you want, sweetheart. You'll come back to me sooner than you think. Hours later, Elara finds herself wandering aimlessly through the forest, her thoughts tangled in knots she can't unravel. Kael's presence lingers everywhere, in the rustle of leaves, the snap of twigs beneath her feet, the way the sunlight filters through the canopy above. No matter how far she walks, she can't escape him, can't silence the voice in her head whispering that maybe, just maybe he's right. But then there's Lucian. His silver eyes flash in her mind's eye, cold and calculating, reminding her that Kael isn't the only danger lurking in these woods. Whatever vendetta he has against the Alpha, it's clear he sees her as nothing more than a pawn in his game, a means to an end. The thought makes her sick to her stomach, but it also fuels a spark of determination deep within her chest. She won't let either of them use her, won't become a tool in their twisted battles, or so she tells herself. By midday, exhaustion overtakes her, and she collapses onto a fallen log near a bubbling stream. The water glimmers invitingly in the sunlight, but she doesn't trust herself to drink. Instead, she buries her face in her hands, letting the tears flow freely for the first time since last night. Each sob racks her body, releasing the pain and humiliation she's been holding onto for too long. What did I do to deserve this? She whispers to no one, her voice breaking on the last word. A twig snaps nearby, startling her upright. Her wolf snarls instinctively, hackles raised, as she scans the surrounding trees for movement. At first, she thinks it's Kael returning to torment her further. Or worse, Lucian, coming to finish whatever twisted plan he set in motion. But then a figure emerges from the shadows, and her breath catches in her throat. It's her mate. He looks different somehow, less sure of himself than he did the night before. His shoulders are slumped, his golden eyes clouded with uncertainty. For a moment, hope flares in her chest, bright and blinding. Maybe he's changed his mind. Maybe he realizes his mistake and wants to make things right. Elara, he says softly, taking a hesitant step toward her. Can we talk? She nods numbly, unsure whether to laugh or cry. This is the man who shattered her heart mere hours ago. Yet here he is, acting as if nothing happened, as if rejection hadn't left her broken and bleeding on the forest floor. I'm sorry, he continues, running a hand through his hair. About last night. I didn't mean to hurt you. Anger bubbles to the surface, hot and sudden, drowning out the fragile hope that had begun to bloom. Didn't mean to hurt me, she repeats, her voice rising with each word. You dismissed me like I was nothing, like our bond, the bond everyone says is sacred, meant absolutely nothing. He winces, guilt flashing across his face. I was confused, scared. I didn't know what to do. So, instead of talking to me, you just walked away, she snaps, standing up abruptly. Left me alone with Kael? Do you have any idea what he's capable of? What he's already done? Her mate frowns, confusion replacing guilt. Kael? What does he have to do with this? Elara laughs bitterly, shaking her head. Of course you wouldn't know. Why would you care? You made it perfectly clear that I'm not worth your time. That's not true, he protests, stepping closer. I regretted it the moment I turned my back on you. I just needed time to process everything, to figure out how to fix it. There's no fixing this. She spits, her voice dripping with venom. You had your chance. Now it's too late. Pain flickers in his eyes, but she refuses to soften, refuses to let him worm his way back into her life after what he's put her through. Whatever connection they once shared is gone, burned to ashes by his rejection. And now, thanks to Kael, she's bound to a man who would destroy the world for her, a man whose obsession grows darker with every passing moment. As if summoned by her thoughts, a low growl rumbles through the trees. Both Elara and her mate turn toward the sound, their bodies tensing in unison. Emerging from the shadows is Kael, his golden eyes blazing with fury and something else, something possessive, something terrifying. Well, well, he drawls, his voice dripping with mockery. Look who decided to show up after all. Tell me, boy, did you miss her? Or are you just here to clean up your mess? Her mate steps protectively in front of her, his stance defensive. Stay away from her, Kael. She's mine. Kael laughs, a deep, menacing sound that sends chills racing down Elara's spine. Yours? You gave that up the moment you turned your back on her. She belongs to me now. No, Elara whispers, shaking her head frantically. I don't belong to either of you. But neither man seems to hear her. Their gazes lock, tension crackling in the air like lightning before a storm. In that moment, she knows, this isn't just about her anymore. It's about dominance, about proving who's stronger, who's worthy. And she's caught in the middle, a prize neither is willing to relinquish. Before she can react, Kael lunges forward, shifting mid-stride into his wolf form. A massive creature wreathed in flames. Her mate follows suit, his smaller but equally fierce wolf snarling as they collide in a blur of teeth and claws. The ground shakes beneath their weight, the forest trembling around them as they fight for control. Elara stumbles backward, her heart pounding in her ears. She should run, should disappear into the trees while they're distracted, but her legs won't obey, rooted to the spot by a mix of fear and morbid fascination. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the battle halts. Kael pins her mate to the ground, his jaws inches from his throat. Blood drips from countless wounds, staining the earth beneath them. One more move, Kael growls, his voice thick with malice, and I'll rip your throat out. Her mate whimpers, submitting reluctantly. Defeat shines in his eyes, bitter and resigned. Kael releases him with a sneer, shifting back into his human form. Get out of my sight, he commands, turning his attention to Elara. And don't come near her again unless you want to die. Her mate hesitates, looking torn between defiance and self-preservation. Finally, he shifts back, casting one last glance at Elara before disappearing into the trees. Kael approaches her slowly, his expression unreadable. Are you all right? He asks, reaching out to touch her face. She jerks away, anger and betrayal swirling inside her like a hurricane. Don't touch me, she hisses, her voice trembling with rage. You had no right to interfere. Oh, but I did, he counters, his tone softening slightly. You're mine now, Elara, whether you like it or not. Her wolf growls low in her chest, a warning that goes ignored. I'll never be yours, she vows, tears streaming down her cheeks. Not willingly. Kael smirks, brushing a strand of hair from her face. We'll see about that. As he pulls her into his arms, the world fades away, leaving only the warmth of his embrace and the chilling certainty that she's trapped in a war she may not survive. Kael's arms tighten around Elara, pulling her flush against his chest. His scent, smoke and pine, sharp and intoxicating, wraps around her like a second skin, suffocating in its intensity. She struggles briefly, her hands pressing against his chest, but he doesn't budge. If anything, his grip grows firmer, possessive, as if daring her to try again. "You don't get to run any more," he murmurs into her hair, his breath warm against her ear. "Not from me." Elara bites back the retort, rising in her throat, knowing it will only fuel his obsession. Instead, she forces herself to go limp in his arms, feigning surrender. It's not submission, it's strategy. A wolf knows when to fight and when to wait for the right moment to strike. For now, waiting is all she has. When Kael finally releases her, stepping back just enough to study her face, his expression softens fractionally. There's something almost tender in his gaze, though it does little to ease the knot of dread twisting in her stomach. He reaches out again, this time brushing a strand of hair from her cheek with surprising gentleness. His touch sends a shiver racing down her spine, not because it's comforting, but because it feels like a claim, like branding. "I'll take care of you," he says, his voice low and steady, full of conviction. No matter what. She wants to laugh at the absurdity of it. Take care of her? The man who just forced a violent confrontation between alphas over her? Who dismissed her autonomy with a single kiss and an even more damning promise? But laughter catches in her throat, choking on the weight of his words. Because beneath the arrogance and control lies a truth she can't ignore. Kael isn't lying. Whatever twisted version of love he's offering, he means every word. For a fleeting moment, she allows herself to imagine what life might be like under his protection. Safe, secure, free from the constant judgment and rejection she's endured her entire life. But then reality crashes back down on her, heavy and unrelenting. Safety under Kael comes at a price, one she's not sure she's willing to pay. Days blur together after that, each one marked by Kael's increasingly erratic behavior. At first, his gestures are small, almost sweet. Flowers left outside her den, a fur-lined cloak draped over her shoulders during patrols, a whispered compliment about her strength or resilience that makes her cheeks burn despite herself. But soon, those moments give way to something darker, more suffocating. He shadows her everywhere, his presence looming large whether he's physically present or not. When she tries to visit Mira, Kael intercepts her, claiming Mira has no business involving herself in pack matters. When she attempts to join hunting parties, he insists she stay behind, citing some vague concern for her safety. And when she pushes back, when she dares to argue, he silences her with a look so fierce it steals the air from her lungs. Her wolf growls constantly now, restless and agitated, pacing within her mind like a trapped animal desperate for release. It hates being caged, hates feeling powerless. But worse than that, it responds to Kael. Not just to his dominance, but to his attention. To the way he looks at her like she's the center of his universe, the axis upon which everything else turns. That connection frightens her more than anything else because it feels real. Too real. And yet, there are glimpses of humanity beneath the possessiveness. Moments when he lets his guard down, revealing cracks in the armor he wears so effortlessly. Like the night he finds her sitting alone by the stream, staring up at the stars. Without a word, he sits beside her, his shoulder brushing hers lightly. They sit in silence for a while, listening to the water ripple softly over stones. Then, almost hesitantly, he asks, "Do you ever wonder why fate chose us?" Elara stiffens, unsure how to respond. Wondering implies hope, and hope is dangerous when it comes to Kael. Still, she finds herself answering, her voice barely above a whisper. "I used to. Now I think maybe fate got it wrong." Kael's jaw tightens, his fingers curling into fists at his sides. "Fate doesn't make mistakes," he says sharply, his tone leaving no room for argument. If anyone made a mistake, it was him. Her mate. The name hangs unspoken between them, sharp and jagged like broken glass. She doesn't want to talk about him. Not to Kael, not to anyone. But avoiding the subject only seems to make Kael more determined to confront it head-on. He came to see me, she admits, finally unable to meet his eyes. A few days ago. Said he regretted rejecting me. Kael's reaction is immediate and visceral. His body tenses, every muscle coiled like a spring ready to snap. What did you tell him? He demands, his voice dangerously calm. That I didn't belong to him anymore, she replies, meeting his gaze defiantly. That I never did. For a heartbeat, Kael looks almost pleased. Then his expression darkens, suspicion flickering across his features. Why would he come back now? After everything? Elara shrugs, feigning indifference. Maybe guilt finally caught up with him. Or maybe he realized losing me wasn't worth whatever pride he thought he was protecting. Kael narrows his eyes, clearly unconvinced. Or maybe he's playing you, using your weakness against you. My weakness, she repeats, anger flaring hot and sudden. You mean my heart? Because last I checked, wanting to be loved isn't a flaw. No, Kael agrees, leaning closer until their faces are inches apart. But trusting the wrong person is. Before she can respond, he stands abruptly, his movements jerky and abrupt. Stay away from him, he orders, his voice dropping to a growl. If he so much as looks at you again, I'll tear him apart. Elara watches him walk away, frustration bubbling inside her like boiling water. She wants to scream, to rage against the unfairness of it all, but yelling won't change anything. Not when Kael's determination borders on madness. Not when his obsession shows no signs of fading. The tension escalates further when rumors begin spreading through the pack. Whispers of rebellion, of unrest among the lower ranks who fear Kael's growing instability. Some accuse him of abusing his power, of letting personal vendettas cloud his judgment. Others speak of ancient prophecies warning against broken bonds, claiming chaos will follow unless balance is restored. Elara overhears snippets of these conversations during gatherings, her wolf instinctively bristling at the hostility directed toward Kael. Despite everything, part of her still feels protective of him. Maybe it's loyalty born of shared pain, or maybe it's something deeper, something she refuses to acknowledge. Then there's Lucian. His silver eyes haunt her dreams, cold and calculating, reminding her that Kael isn't the only threat lurking in the shadows. One night, while patrolling the outskirts of the territory, she senses his presence before she sees him. He steps out of the trees silently, his movements fluid and deliberate. Running errands for your alpha? He asks, his tone dripping with mockery. How noble of you. Elara stiffens, her hand instinctively reaching for the dagger strapped to her thigh. What do you want, Lucian? He smiles, slow and predatory. Just checking in on my favorite pawn. How's life under Kael's thumb treating you? I'm not a pawn, she snaps, her voice trembling with barely contained fury. And I don't answer to you. No. Lucian counters, taking a step closer. Funny, because everyone seems to think otherwise, including Kael. His words sting more than they should, striking a nerve she didn't realize was exposed. You don't know anything about me, she spits, clutching the hilt of her dagger tighter. Oh, but I do, he replies, his smile widening. I know you're stronger than you seem, that you have potential buried deep inside you, waiting to be unleashed. Potential neither Kael nor your former mate could ever understand. What are you talking about? She demands, confusion warring with suspicion. Lucian tilts his head, studying her like a scientist examining a specimen. Let's just say your bond wasn't completely severed when your mate rejected you. Something lingered, something powerful. Elara's blood runs cold. She'd felt it too, the strange energy coursing through her veins whenever emotions run high. The inexplicable bursts of strength or speed she chalked up to adrenaline. Could it be true? Could she really have latent powers tied to her rejected bond? Before she can press him further, Lucian steps back, his expression unreadable. Think about it, darling. And remember, not all allies wear friendly faces. Then he's gone, disappearing into the trees as quickly as he appeared, leaving her alone with questions she doesn't know how to answer. Underscore. The final straw comes weeks later, when Elara attempts to escape Kael's suffocating grasp. She plans carefully, timing her departure for a night when he's preoccupied with pack business. Slipping away unnoticed proves easier than expected, until she reaches the nearby village where Mira had arranged sanctuary. It's supposed to be safe, hidden, a place where Kael's influence doesn't reach. But as dawn breaks over the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape, flames erupt from the rooftops. Smoke billows into the sky, choking the air with ash and despair. Elara stumbles out of the house where she'd been hiding, her heart pounding wildly as screams echo through the streets. Villagers scatter in panic, their faces pale with terror. In the distance, standing amidst the inferno like a demon summoned from hell itself, is Kael. His golden eyes glow brighter than ever, his expression eerily calm despite the destruction surrounding him. "You didn't think I'd let you go that easily, did you?" he calls, his voice carrying effortlessly over the chaos. "Come out, Elara. This ends tonight." She freezes, torn between running and facing him. Running won't save her, not this time. Not when Kael's wrath burns hotter than any fire. Slowly, reluctantly, she steps forward, her legs shaking beneath her. As she approaches, Kael's gaze locks onto hers, pinning her in place. Flames lick at his feet, curling around him like living things eager to obey his command. "Choose me," he growls, his voice raw with desperation, "or watch everything you care about turn to ash." Behind him, the village continues to burn, cries of anguish filling the air. Among them, she hears Myra's voice calling her name, pleading for help. Guilt and horror crash over her in waves, threatening to drown her. Kael takes a step closer, his eyes blazing with fury. "Decide, Elara. Now." Elara stands frozen, her breath hitching as the heat from the flames sears her skin. The acrid smell of burning wood and scorched earth fills the air, mingling with the cries of villagers fleeing for their lives. Her wolf howls inside her mind, frantic and terrified, but she forces herself to stay rooted in place. Running won't save anyone now. Not when Kael's fury burns brighter than the fire consuming the village behind him. "You think this is love?" she shouts, her voice trembling with rage and disbelief. "This isn't love, it's destruction." Kael tilts his head, his golden eyes glowing like molten lava, reflecting the chaos around them. He doesn't deny her accusation. Instead, he steps closer, each movement deliberate, as if savoring the weight of the moment. "Love," he says softly, his tone almost tender despite the devastation at his back, "is doing whatever it takes to keep what's mine safe, even if that means burning the world to ashes." His words hit her like a physical blow, knocking the air from her lungs. She wants to scream, to rail against the madness gripping him, but deep down, she knows he believes every word. To Kael, love isn't about choice or mutual respect, it's possession, ownership, and she's become the object of his obsession, whether she likes it or not. The ground beneath her feet vibrates as another structure collapses into flames, sending sparks spiraling skyward. Myra's voice echoes faintly through the chaos, pleading, desperate. But Elara can't bring herself to look away from Kael. His presence commands every ounce of her attention, every shred of her fear. "Stop this," she demands. tears streaming down her face. These people have nothing to do with us. They have everything to do with you, Kael counters, his voice dropping to a growl. Every person who tries to hide you from me, every ally who thinks they can stand between us, they're all part of the problem. Submit to me, Elara. End this before anyone else gets hurt. Her heart pounds so loudly in her ears that it drowns out the sounds of destruction. Submitting to him feels like surrendering her soul, giving up everything she's ever fought for just to survive. But resisting means more death, more suffering. How can she choose? Before she can respond, a new voice cuts through the inferno, a voice she never expected to hear again. Leave her alone, Kael. Elara turns sharply, her stomach lurching as her rejected mate steps into view. His golden eyes are wide with terror and determination, his body tense as he surveys the carnage. For a moment, relief floods her chest. He came back. Despite everything, he risked his life to save hers. But then reality crashes down on her. He's walking straight into a battlefield where even gods would hesitate to tread. "What are you doing here?" she whispers, her voice breaking under the strain of emotions warring within her. He meets her gaze briefly, guilt and regret etched into his expression. "I couldn't let him destroy innocent lives because of me. Because of us." Kael laughs, a low, menacing sound that sends chills racing down Elara's spine. "How noble of you," he sneers, shifting slightly to face the newcomer. "But bravery won't save you this time." The tension crackles in the air like electricity, thick enough to choke on. The two alphas lock eyes, their gazes colliding like thunderclouds moments before a storm breaks. Power radiates off both men in waves, pressing against Elara's senses until it's hard to breathe. She feels trapped between them, not just physically, but emotionally. Each man represents a different kind of pain, a different kind of loss, and yet neither offers true freedom. "I'm not letting you hurt her anymore," her mate declares, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "She deserves better than either of us." Kael smirks, stepping forward until he's standing toe-to-toe with the other alpha. "Better? Oh, I think we both know she belongs exactly where she is with me." "No," Elara interrupts, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Both men turn to look at her, surprise flickering across their faces. She takes a shaky step forward, forcing herself to meet their gazes without flinching. "I don't belong to either of you." Her declaration hangs heavy in the air, silencing the roar of the flames for a single heartbeat. Then Kael's expression darkens, his patience snapping like a brittle twig. "You don't get to decide that," he snarls, his form beginning to shift. Muscles ripple beneath his skin as for sprouts along his arms, his jaw elongating into a muzzle lined with razor-sharp teeth. Within seconds, he towers over them, a massive wolf wreathed in fire, his eyes blazing with unrelenting fury. The sight is enough to make her knees buckle, but she forces herself to stand tall. This is it, the moment she's been dreading since the night Kael first kissed her. The moment she'll have to choose. Her mate shifts too, his smaller but equally fierce wolf snarling as he positions himself protectively in front of her. The two beasts circle each other, their movements fluid and predatory, the air shimmering with the intensity of their power. Sparks fly as their claws scrape against the scorched earth, the sound sharp and metallic. Behind them, the horizon burns orange and red, painting the battlefield in hues of destruction. Elara watches helplessly, her heart hammering wildly in her chest. Every instinct screams at her to run, to escape while she still can. But running won't solve anything, not when the fate of everyone she cares about rests on her shoulders, not when the decision she makes next will change everything. As the alphas collide in a blur of teeth and claws, she feels something stir deep within her. It's the same energy she's felt before, the strange, untapped power Lucian hinted at. It surges through her veins now, hot and electric, setting her nerves alight. Her wolf growls in approval, urging her to embrace it, to use it. For a moment, she hesitates, unsure whether she's strong enough to wield such power. Then she remembers Myra's voice calling her name, remembers the faces of the villagers fleeing for their lives, remembers the way Kael looked at her earlier, as if she were less than human, an object to be claimed rather than a person to be cherished. No, she won't let him win, won't let either of them dictate her future any longer. Summoning every ounce of strength she possesses, she closes her eyes and focuses on the energy coursing through her. It's wild and untamed, like a storm waiting to break. Slowly, carefully, she begins to shape it, pulling it into herself until it becomes a weapon, a tool, a lifeline. When she opens her eyes again, they glow silver, brighter than the flames consuming the village. The alphas pause mid-battle, their attention drawn to her like moths to a flame. Even Kael seems taken aback, his fiery aura flickering uncertainly. "This ends now," she says, her voice resonating with unnatural clarity, carrying an authority she didn't know she possessed. "Both of you need to stop." Kael bares his fangs, his growl rumbling like distant thunder. "You don't control me, little Omega." "And you don't control me," she counters, stepping between them. Her body hums with power, the energy crackling around her fingertips like static electricity. "If you want to fight, then fight me, but leave everyone else out of it." Her mate shifts back into human form, his expression torn between awe and concern. "Elara, don't." "I mean it," she interrupts, her gaze locking onto Kael. "If you care about me at all, if any part of what you feel is real, you'll stand down. Right now." For a long, agonizing moment, Kael doesn't move. His fiery wolf glares at her, its massive frame trembling with barely contained rage. Then, slowly, the flames begin to recede, revealing the man beneath. He shifts back into his human form, his chest heaving as he struggles to regain control. "You think you can defy me?" he asks, his voice rough with emotion. "After everything I've done for you?" "I'm not defying you," she replies, her voice softening slightly. "I'm asking you to see me, to really see me, as someone worthy of respect, not possession." Kael stares at her, his expression unreadable. Pain flickers in his eyes, raw and unguarded, and for the first time, she sees the vulnerability hiding behind his obsession. Whatever twisted version of love he's been offering her, it's rooted in something deeper than dominance, something fragile and broken. But before he can respond, the ground shakes violently beneath their feet. A deafening roar splits the air, louder and more primal than anything they've heard before. All three of them turn toward the source of the noise, dread pooling in their stomachs. Emerging from the smoke and flames is Lucian, his silver eyes gleaming with triumph. Beside him stands a figure cloaked in shadows, its presence radiating malice, so potent it makes Elara's skin crawl. "Well done, darling," Lucian drawls, clapping mockingly. "You've managed to unite two alphas against you. Quite the accomplishment. What are you doing here?" Elara demands, her voice shaking despite her best efforts to sound brave. Lucian smiles, slow and sinister. "Collecting my prize, of course. Did you really think I'd let you tap into that power without a plan to claim it for myself?" Before she can react, the shadowy figure lunges forward, moving faster than should be possible. Its claws swipe at her, narrowly missing her throat as she stumbles backward. Kael and her mate leap into action simultaneously, attacking the creature with ferocious intensity. Elara scrambles to her feet, her mind racing. She can't fight, not like this. Not when her powers are still unstable, unpredictable. But she also can't run. Not when the people she loves are fighting for their lives because of her. Then, amidst the chaos, a thought strikes her, one so terrifying it makes her blood run cold. What if Lucian's right? What if her powers aren't meant to save her, but to destroy everything she holds dear. As the battle rages on, the flames growing higher and hotter with each passing second, Elara realizes she has one final choice to make, one that will determine not just her fate, but the fate of everyone caught in this nightmare. The shadowy figure lunges again, its claws slicing through the air with deadly precision. Elara barely manages to dodge, her body moving on instinct as adrenaline floods her veins. Around her, the battle rages on, Kael and her rejected mate fighting side by side against Lucian and his monstrous ally. It's a surreal sight, two alphas who once clashed over her now united in their desperation to protect her. But even their combined strength isn't enough to stop the chaos unfolding before them. Lucian watches from the sidelines, his silver eyes gleaming with satisfaction as the creature tears through defenses that would have felled any ordinary shifter. "You see, darling," he calls out, his voice dripping with mockery. "This is what happens when you play with fire. Eventually it burns everything you love." Elara's breath catches in her throat as the creature turns its attention back to her, its form shifting and writhing like smoke given life. She can feel its malice pressing down on her, suffocating in its intensity. This isn't just some summoned beast. It's something ancient, something tied to the very fabric of fate itself. And she knows, deep in her gut, that it exists because of her, because of the bond she tried and failed to sever. Her powers surge within her again, stronger this time, almost overwhelming. They pulse through her veins like liquid lightning, threatening to consume her if she doesn't act quickly. Closing her eyes, she focuses every ounce of her willpower, channeling the energy into something tangible, something useful. The air around her crackles with static electricity, her silver-glowing eyes reflecting the turmoil inside her. When she opens her eyes again, she feels different, stronger, more grounded. For the first time, she understands the truth about her powers. They aren't a curse or a weapon. They're a part of her, born from the broken pieces of her soul. And they're hers to command. With a roar that shakes the earth beneath their feet, she unleashes the energy she's been holding back. A wave of silvery light explodes outward, engulfing the battlefield in blinding brilliance. The shadowy creature shrieks, its form dissolving into nothingness under the onslaught. Lucian stumbles backward, shielding his face as the light sears his skin. "No!" he screams, fury twisting his features. "This wasn't supposed to happen." But Elara doesn't stop. She channels everything she has left into one final burst of power, targeting Lucian directly. He tries to resist, his own dark magic flaring in response. But it's no match for the raw force of her determination. With a final, deafening crack, the light consumes him entirely, leaving behind only silence. When the dust settles, the village lies in ruins, its charred remains smoldering quietly beneath the pale glow of the moon. Kael and her rejected mate stand side by side, battered but alive, their gazes fixed on her with equal parts awe and uncertainty. She looks at them both, her chest heaving as exhaustion threatens to pull her under. "Are you all right?" her mate asks hesitantly, taking a cautious step toward her. She nods, though her legs feel like they might give out at any moment. "I'm fine," she whispers, her voice hoarse from exertion. "For now." Kael doesn't approach, instead keeping his distance as if unsure whether he's still welcome near her. His expression is unreadable, but there's a flicker of pain in his golden eyes that makes her heart ache. Whatever obsession drove him to madness has faded, replaced by something quieter, more human. Regret, maybe, or acceptance. "What happens now?" he asks finally, his voice rough with emotion. Elara takes a deep breath, steeling herself for what she needs to say next. "Now we rebuild. Together." Her words hang heavy in the air, met with stunned silence from both men. Then, slowly, her mate steps forward, offering her a tentative smile. "If that's what you want, then I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." Kael clenches his fists, his jaw tightening as he struggles to keep his emotions in check. And me? She meets his gaze steadily, refusing to look away. You did terrible things, Kael. Things I don't know if I can ever forgive. But you also showed me that I'm stronger than I thought. That I deserve better than being treated as weak or powerless. So I won't turn my back on you, not yet. But you need to prove to me and to everyone else that you've changed. For a moment, he says nothing, his expression softening fractionally. Then he nods, his shoulders sagging with relief or resignation. I'll do whatever it takes, he vows, his voice low and steady. Whatever you need. In the days that follow, the survivors work tirelessly to salvage what they can from the wreckage. The villagers return cautiously, their faces etched with gratitude and fear as they rebuild their homes under Elara's guidance. Word spreads quickly about the Omega who stood up to an Alpha and lived to tell the tale. Some call her a hero. Others whisper that she's dangerous, unpredictable. But none deny that she's changed the balance of power forever. As for Kael and her rejected mate, they begin to find a fragile peace between them. Neither fully trusts the other, but they share a common goal, protecting Elara and ensuring that no one else suffers because of their mistakes. It's not forgiveness, not yet, but it's a start. Through it all, Elara discovers hidden truths about herself. Her latent powers are tied not just to her rejected bond, but to her lineage. She learns that she's descended from a long line of Omegas who were once revered as mediators between packs, their strength lying not in dominance, but in unity. Their bloodline had been all but forgotten until now, erased by centuries of oppression and fear. But Elara's actions have awakened something dormant, a spark of hope that refuses to be extinguished. One evening, as the sun dips below the horizon and the stars begin to twinkle overhead, she walks alone along the edge of the forest. The scars of recent battles still linger, the charred trees, the faint scent of ash, but there's a sense of renewal in the air, too, of possibility. Behind her, footsteps crunch softly against the earth. Turning, she sees Kael approaching, his usual arrogance replaced by quiet humility. Without a word, he hands her a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside is a delicate pendant carved from moonstone, its surface shimmering faintly in the starlight. It belonged to my mother, he explains, his voice tinged with vulnerability. She always said it was meant for someone worthy of its light. Someone like you. Elara stares at the pendant, her throat tightening with unshed tears. Finally, she looks up at him, her expression softening. Thank you, she murmurs, slipping the necklace over her head. But remember, this doesn't mean I trust you completely. Not yet. He nods, understanding written plainly across his face. I wouldn't expect anything less. They stand there for a moment, the silence between them heavy with unspoken words. Then, without another glance back, Elara turns and walks deeper into the woods, her wolf pacing contentedly within her mind. She doesn't know what the future holds for her, for Kael, for anyone, but for the first time, she feels ready to face it. Sometimes love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about becoming whole on your own. Under the light of a new moon, she walked forward, ready to face whatever came next. And that's the end of our epic werewolf romance. Rejected by my mate, bound to the Alpha. If you love this story, don't forget to subscribe to I Love Romance Stories for more tales of passion, heartbreak, and unforgettable characters. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload, and let me know in the comments. What would you have done in her place? Until next time, keep believing in love. Just as Elara disappears into the forest, a distant howl echoes through the trees, one she's never heard before. Its tone is neither friendly nor hostile, but unmistakably curious.